Some places on Earth are so dangerous nature basically put up a sign that says do not enter. Today, we're counting down the 10 deadliest places on the entire planet. Places where surviving even a few hours is basically a miracle. These are real locations, real deaths, real science explaining why these places are basically nature's death traps. Number 1 is somewhere most people walk past every single day without knowing how dangerous it actually is. If you love this kind of stuff, subscribe now. We explore something wild like this every week. Let's start the countdown. Number 10. Lake Natron in Tanzania. This lake is so caustic it can turn animals into statues. The water reaches a pH of up to 10.5, nearly as alkaline as ammonia, and the temperature can hit 60 degrees Celsius. Animals that die in the lake become preserved calcified by the chemicals, looking like eerie statues frozen in place. Photographer Nick Brandt famously photographed these calcified creatures, and the images went viral for how disturbing and beautiful they looked. But here's the surprising twist: flamingos actually thrive here. They're one of the only animals that can survive in this deadly water. Their legs have thick scales that protect them from the caustic water, and they've evolved to filter feed on the algae that gives the lake its blood red color. This lake is actually one of the most important flamingo breeding grounds in all of East Africa, precisely because nothing else can survive there to bother them. The lake's insane chemistry is basically a natural fortress, deadly to everything except the one bird that figured out how to use it. Number 10 down, and trust me, the next 9 are even more insane. Number 9. The Door to Hell in Turkmenistan. This is a giant crater that has literally been on fire since 1971. Soviet scientists were drilling for natural gas when the ground collapsed, creating a massive crater that released dangerous methane gas. To stop the toxic gas from spreading, they made a decision that would haunt the region forever. They set it on fire, expecting it to burn out in a few weeks. That was over 50 years ago. It is still burning today, right now, non-stop, for half a century. The crater is nearly 70 meters wide and glows so brightly at night it can be seen from miles away across the desert. The heat radiating from it is so intense that scientists who study the crater can only get within a certain distance before their equipment starts failing. In 2013, an explorer named George Kourounis actually descended into the crater wearing a special heat-resistant suit to collect soil samples and check if anything could survive down there. He found bacteria surviving in the extreme heat, proof that life can exist even in conditions that seem completely impossible for anything to live. A hole that was only supposed to burn for 2 weeks has been on fire for over half a century. Nobody actually knows when or if it will ever go out. Number 8. Snake Island off the coast of Brazil. This tiny island has one of the highest concentrations of venomous snakes on the entire planet. Estimates suggest there is roughly 1 venomous snake for every square meter of the island. That's not an exaggeration, that's the actual scientific estimate. The island is home to the golden lancet pit viper, one of the most venomous snakes on Earth, found nowhere else in the world. Its venom is so powerful it can melt human flesh around a bite. It's estimated to be 5 times more potent than mainland snake venom. This is why the Brazilian Navy officially banned civilians from ever setting foot on the island. Only scientists with special permits are allowed. Local legend says a lighthouse keeper who once lived there was killed by snakes that entered his home through the windows. The population died out completely, but scientists estimate there are still between 2,000 and 4,000 golden lanceheads slithering around the island right now. A single island smaller than most city parks, hiding thousands of the deadliest snakes on Earth, and nobody is allowed anywhere near it. Number 7. Death Valley in California. This place has recorded some of the highest air temperatures ever measured on Earth. In 1913, a temperature of 56.7 degrees Celsius was recorded here, the hottest air temperature ever officially confirmed on the planet. The ground surface temperature can get even hotter, reaching up to 94 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to cook an egg in minutes. The name isn't just dramatic marketing. Dozens of people have actually died here, mostly from severe dehydration and heat stroke in just a matter of hours. There's actually a location within the valley called Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, sitting 86 meters below sea level. Being below sea level and surrounded by mountains traps hot air in the valley, creating a natural oven effect that just keeps intensifying the heat. Despite all this, some animals genuinely thrive here. Desert bighorn sheep and a species of pupfish have adapted to survive in these brutal conditions. Nature's hottest recorded place on Earth, and somehow life found a way to survive there anyway. Real quick, if you're already amazed, subscribe now, because the next 6 places are absolutely terrifying. Let's keep going. Number 6. Lake Kivu in Central Africa. This lake has a massive amount of dissolved gas trapped underneath it, enough to potentially kill millions of people. Deep beneath the surface, massive amounts of carbon dioxide and methane gas are trapped under pressure from surrounding volcanic activity. If something disturbs the lake enough, like a landslide or earthquake, it could trigger what scientists call a limnic eruption. This would release a massive cloud of suffocating gas that could spread for miles, silently suffocating everyone in its path within minutes. This isn't just theoretical. It has actually happened before at a similar African lake, Lake Nyos, in 1986. That eruption released a gas cloud that killed nearly 1,800 people and thousands of animals almost instantly. Many were found where they had simply fallen with no warning at all. Lake Kivu holds roughly 2,000 times more trapped gas than Lake Nyos did, and nearly 2 million people live along its shores today. Scientists are now working on ways to safely extract this gas before nature does it for us in the worst way imaginable. Number 5. The Skeleton Coast in Namibia. This stretch of coastline earned its name from the hundreds of shipwrecks and skeletons scattered along it. Thick fog rolls in almost constantly here combined with treacherous currents that have wrecked hundreds of ships over the centuries. Once sailors made it to shore alive, they faced an entirely new nightmare. The Namib Desert stretches for hundreds of miles in every direction. There was no fresh water, no food, no way to signal for rescue, just endless desert in one direction and freezing shipwreck-filled ocean in the other. This is why the Portuguese sailors who first explored this coastline called it the Gates of Hell. Once you were stranded here, escape was nearly impossible. Even today, there are over 1,000 documented shipwrecks along this coastline, some visible from the beach, half buried in sand for decades. One famous wreck sat abandoned for so long that a small ecosystem actually formed around its seals, using the rusted hull as a breeding ground. A coastline so dangerous it's basically nature's own graveyard, and it's still claiming ships to this very day. Number 4. Certain rivers deep in the Amazon rainforest, home to one of the most feared tiny fish on the entire planet. The kangaroo fish is only a few centimeters long, but it's earned a reputation as one of the most terrifying creatures in the entire river system. It's a parasitic fish that normally attaches itself to the gills of larger fish to feed on their blood. But local legends, some documented in medical case reports, claim it can swim into human body openings while people are swimming or bathing in the river. Once inside, its backward-facing spines make it nearly impossible to remove without surgery. Because of this, locals in certain regions traditionally wear protective coverings while swimming, just to be safe. Documented cases are actually extremely rare, but the fear alone has made this tiny fish one of the most infamous creatures in the entire Amazon. A fish smaller than your finger has an entire river system too scared to swim in certain areas. That's the power of a well-earned reputation. Number 3. Mount Washington in New Hampshire. This mountain has some of the most violently unpredictable weather ever recorded on Earth. In 1934, this mountain recorded a wind gust of 372 kilometers per hour, the fastest wind speed ever measured directly by a human observer at the time. The mountain is where 3 major storm paths from across North America converge, creating conditions found almost nowhere else on the continent. Temperatures can swing over 30 degrees in a single hour. Sunny skies can turn into a blinding blizzard in less than 15 minutes. More than 160 people have died on this mountain, mostly hikers caught off guard by weather that shifted from pleasant to lethal almost instantly. There's an observatory at the summit staffed year-round by scientists specifically to monitor and warn people about the mountain's extreme conditions. Despite constant warnings, people still attempt the summit every year. Some make it, some don't come back down. A mountain that can shift from a calm hike to a deadly blizzard faster than you can finish reading the sentence. Number 2. The Mariana Trench, the deepest known point in all of Earth's oceans and one of the most hostile environments in the entire solar system. It reaches down nearly 11 kilometers below the ocean surface. If you dropped Mount Everest into it, the peak would still be over a mile underwater. The water pressure at the very bottom is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level, enough to crush an unprotected human body almost instantly. It's permanently pitch black. No sunlight has ever reached the bottom of this trench, not once in the history of the planet. Only 3 manned expeditions in all of human history have ever successfully reached the bottom of this trench. One of them was filmmaker James Cameron, who described the bottom as looking completely alien and unlike anywhere else on the entire planet. Despite the crushing pressure and total darkness, scientists have still found bizarre life forms thriving down there. Nature refuses to give up, even here. And number 1. Yellowstone National Park. Beneath this beautiful, peaceful landscape sits one of the most dangerous volcanoes on the entire planet. The magma chamber beneath Yellowstone is estimated to be roughly the size of the entire state of Rhode Island. This supervolcano has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years, and each eruption was thousands of times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. This supervolcano has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years, and each eruption was thousands of times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. If it erupted at full force today, scientists estimate it could cover most of the United States in volcanic ash and potentially trigger a global volcanic winter. The good news? Scientists monitor the supervolcano constantly, and current data shows no signs of an eruption happening anytime soon. But here's what's genuinely wild: this dormant supervolcano is also home to the incredible geysers and hot springs that millions of tourists visit every year. Every single one of those beautiful geysers, including the famous Old Faithful, is directly powered by the same supervolcano that could theoretically end civilization. Millions of families take photos next to one of the most catastrophically dangerous geological features on the planet and have absolutely no idea. So let's do a quick recap of everywhere we just traveled. A lake that turns animals into statues. A crater that's been on fire for 50 years. An island covered in some of the deadliest snakes alive. The hottest recorded place on Earth, a lake with enough trapped gas to kill millions, a coastline littered with over 1,000 shipwrecks, a tiny fish that terrifies an entire river system, a mountain with the most violent weather on the continent, the deepest, darkest place in all our oceans, and a supervolcano that millions of unsuspecting tourists photograph every single year without knowing what's underneath their feet. 10 places, 10 completely different ways nature reminds us who's actually in charge of this planet. And honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are dozens more places like this scattered across the world. If this blew your mind, subscribe now. Next week, we're covering 10 more places that are somehow even more terrifying than these. Comment below which one of these places would you actually want to visit, even from a safe distance. See you next week for 10 more places nature really doesn't want you visiting.